Well, welcome back to Simple Groundwork and Diorama Techniques with me, your host and instructor, Bill Grigg. And as usual, we have behind the lens of the camera the famous clam bake man,
Here
Dave.
we go.
Dave from Cape Cod.
Thank you, Bill.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Dave. Hope your New Year was a good one. Hope all your New Year's was a good one. Matter of fact, I haven't seen all you people in a year. So, listen, what we're going to do, we are going to get back into that C-47 gunship today, and I'm going to get real aggressive on painting today. So follow along, get out your stuff, get your product, and we are ready for another action-packed, exciting, dangerous adventure into the world of scale model building. Again, we are going back to our C-47 spooky gunship in one...
Toward me. Just tip it toward me. Oh,
Got a glare?
Yeah, I
Got a
that.
glare?
All right, and okay, that's good.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're going to be building, folks, today, as we have been throughout this entire series. Now, like I said, I'm going to get real aggressive today, and we are going to get a tremendous amount of painting done. Also, I met a gentleman in the supermarket the other day that was asking me questions about staining with the oil paints. This is to you, John. Here's the deal. You do not necessarily always have to do all your washes with an oil paint. If you do not own oils, you can go into them with enamels and cut the enamels and shade in that fashion. And I'm going to bring you through that a little bit today and answer that question for you. So thank you. And folks, please listen. Listen, I'm out and about all the time. I'm constantly all over the place. Do not feel like you can't walk up to me and ask me a question. If you got something that you saw on an episode, by the way, this is episode 22, no, 21, sorry, 21. This is episode 21. So listen, if you have any questions, please don't feel like you can't walk up to me, even though I'm, buying a boar's head to come home here and have a clam bake with my buddy Dave. A big old boar's head. Please, if you got a question, ask me. I'm more than willing to help people out because I want this hobby to progress, and I want you to be building, the most pleasing piece that you can do for yourself. And obviously, if you follow along with me, your modeling skills should improve a little bit. So let's get into the car chases, the fireworks, the rocket shooting, the cannons blasting, and paint stirring. Done. So what do we do, Dave?
Mix your paint.
Stir our paint. We stir our paint. So listen, this is what I'm going to do first. I'm going to answer John's question. Now, John, here's the deal. We have started the C-47 interior. I got to make sure I get the right interior here. Because one of them, remember, both of them I did with oil paint washes. We used that raw umber, cut it down with a low odor thinner, and put it in so we could get the ribbing up. But there's another, oh my goodness, there is another approach to doing this. And as soon as I clean my glasses, so it's not a mystery, we will approach this. Now, we started the interior with a color called interior green. Its federal standard number was 34151. I'll get my glasses clean here. And that was this color right there. Okay, now this is our interior green color. Now, what we have done is we have gone that one step darker with our oil wash, but there's another way to approach this. And let's take a shot at that right now. I'm not going to do the whole interior, but I want you to at least see another approach to doing this. And when we can do a comparison between, I noticed I did both sides with the raw rumble wash, but let's change it around because this side of the aircraft, which is the side where the miniguns stick out, this isn't, you're not going to be able to see the interior of this, so it's a good place to show you this technique. So what I would do is, there's different approaches to this. What I would do is, this is pretty good. Now there's two schools of thought in this. We could take our interior green and we could put a darker green into that color and then darken the base color. Or we could just take another, just a dark green paint, a darker green than the interior green, and straight out of the bottle, we could also do that. So in other words, instead of taking our base color, adding a color to it, and darkening the base, we could just use a darker color and darken the base. So let's do both approaches, okay? And once again, welcome to the exciting and wonderful world of stirring your paint. But this is what I want you to see. You know what, Dave? I think also I will put out a brand new palette here. Oh, that's way too big. Here we go. I'll put out a brand new palette here so we can get down onto this palette and we can actually see the process of what I'm going to do. This is my interior green color now. This is what we've based our interior in. How novel, interior green basing the interior in interior green. That's a novel approach. And since I've been using this constantly, you can see there's very little need to stir. Just to get it up. A little PBM, which is what, Dave?
Paint bottle maintenance.
Attaboy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep your caps on so we have no spills. Uh-oh. This may not be good, Dave. This may not work out too good. Oh, it's a little gooey. It's a little gooey. But that's all right, because we are going to abuse it. Oh yeah, look at that. Yuck. But that is all right because of what we're going to do. That's got to be thrown away. That will have to be thrown away. But again, I don't care. I'm still going to do a little PBM. Now, let's go both directions here. Get an appropriate brush. Get out my thinner. Let's move these so you can see it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Dump some thinner out onto my non-absorbent surface. Here, pick up some of this green. And cut it way out. And you can see I went a little deep in this and picked up some of the stuff off the bottom of my bottle. Now, because I can't see this, because this is not going to show, this is a good place to experiment. Let's go up into the interior of the aircraft and go up in here and start dropping this wash in. Now you can see how it has absolutely changed the color from a interior green color to a much darker color. So that's an approach there. And like I say, you're not going to see this, so I'm going to do little tiny sections of this. Here's another way to do this. We take the same green that we've cut and we add a little interior green to it, thus darkening our base color. And again, I can go right beside this and drop this in. I'm only going to go like 3 ribs. Now, you can see how this is just a little bit lighter than that shade there. Now, what is the advantage of doing? What is the advantages of doing it this way? Well, there's still two schools of thought here. One is we've taken our base color. How do I want to explain this? We've taken our base color and we've brought that one step darker by adding a darker green to it, whereas I've actually tinted the base color. That's a good way to put it. I've tinted the base color down one step. Whereas when I used a pure color, I didn't tint my base. I actually put a different color in. That makes sense, right? That makes sense. So there's 2 schools of thought here. Now, in both of these cases, if this was dry, what I would do next now is, we've all done this and you've seen me do this 100 times. What I would do now is I would go in with my interior color, and I need a dry brush paper. I would go with my interior color. I would dry brush this out. You got this over here in the palette, Dave?
Mhm.
I would dry brush this out as usual. Then I would go into where I had darkened my base and I would dry brush that. I'm going to do it where there's no color, because if I do it over here, it's going to be crazy. But again, you know, we just go in and dry brush this. Now, what I'm doing is I am establishing my base color again onto some of my flat spots and highlighting the ribbing. But I do not want, and I'm going to do this with my finger, folks. Let's do this with my finger. This is, we'll consider this the rib of the aircraft. Let's do it with 2 fingers. This is a rib, this is a rib, this is the flat panel between the spaces in my ribbing. With the method of adding a darker color to my base color, when I go back in this with this panel that I've washed with my darker base color, I've darkened my base, I want to reestablish my base color, but the shadowing that sits on this area next to my ribbing, I do not want to touch. So therefore, when I go in and paint, I'm going to get the center section of this ribbing with my interior green and highlight both of my, on opposite sides, my ribbing of the aircraft. That now allows me to add a lighter color to my base interior green, which might be like a zinc, might be like maybe like, you know, a yellow zinc to just lighten it up a little bit. And then highlight that way. Again, you could take another lighter color. So in other words, we could go with our interior green. This is getting confusing, I know. We could go with our interior green, darkened with a darker green, obviously, then reestablished with my base color, and then lighten the base color. Or we could go, this isn't a good example, but we could also do it the exact same way as I did my one color wash. I could also go in and eliminate and use a totally different green. Or I could take the lighter green and add it to my base and do it that way as well. So in other words, here's the formula. We have our base color. We go one step darker by adding a darker green. We go one step lighter by adding a lighter green. We do not use black to darken, or we do not use white to lighten. That is not how you do this. When you darken and lighten colors, you stay within the family of color and darken that way, or you just choose a darker green and a lighter green to do your washing and your highlighting with. That makes sense, folks? You follow that? Did that make sense, Dave? Did I explain that clearly?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that's the deal on this, folks. That's 2 different approaches to this. And if it was drying faster, I'd actually show it to you. But let's keep on going, and let's go into that realm as well. And I'll do a little dry brushing on this because, like I said, on this side of the interior, you're not going to see it. And I will do that with my yellow zinc because I love lightening with this color. It's a good complementary color. And let's approach it that way as well. And again, I've been using this stuff so much lately that you can see if I stir. It's a good thing here, students. It's good. You noticed because I stir my paint, and I stir my paint constantly, when I do future paint stirring, there's not that huge need to sit here and watch me stir paint for 5 minutes. Okay, now, come down to the palette, Dave. Here's my base green. Here's my lighter color. I work on my palette. and I pick this up. Now you notice I'm doing it right next to my base color. Going over to my dry brush, pull that out, go to my interior, and start to highlight. Now you notice I'm going like I did with my fingers. There's a rib, there's a rib, there's that. But I am avoiding going tight to the rib. Come across. Now we can continue this effect by doing the same thing. I'm going to come back over to the palette, grab a little of the zinc, drop it into where I was already working my color, my base color, my interior green color, and again, pull it out a little bit, go back to the piece, and draw it across. Now you can really see those ribs starting to pop up. Now if this gets too aggressive, let's say we did this. You know what? I'm going to do it. Let's do it. Let's do it because, like I say, you're not going to see this. So I can teach you in this respect. Let's again grab a little of that base, and let's really lighten this time. Oh, that's good. That's really light. Pull that out, dry brush it out, and let's go back into my interior, and let's do this. Now you can see that's gotten real aggressive. That's real light. Real light. Which is actually not bad. It looks pretty good. But it's a little messy. So what we could do is, and again, this needs to dry to have this technique done, but let me show you what you could do to take, and you can see, this is definitely lighter. You can get this, yes, Dave? This is lighter, this is darker. So what we can do now is, because we feel that this is a little bit too light, we go back to our darker green color, cut it way down, and you notice on the palette I am cutting this way down, even more. There we go. And I will now go back to the plane, back to the fuselage, and I will drop this on top. See, it's not dry enough, it's making a mess. But that's the idea. You would take this, drop this on top, and soften your highlighted color with a bit darker color. So there it is, John. There's your question. I do not necessarily have to do this. But, John, now listen. What I would do once this is dry, I would again, because of my toning and wanting to make it look a little more dirty where it's accumulated dirt rather than a different tone in my paints, I could again go in with my oil paint, my raw umber oil paint, cut it way down, and filter on top of what I've already done here as well. That again would bring it down a little bit, might require a little bit more dry brushing of a lighter color, but that's another approach that you could do all your interiors with, and you could do them all this way. This is not a problem. This is not a problem, folks. So you got that? That makes sense, everybody? Everybody understands that? That is good. Alrighty, let's keep on going. Let's set this aside so this can dry. And once this is dry, maybe I will go back to that fuselage and show you some of these things. Excuse me. But in the meantime, let us do this because we still have all these parts that we've pre-painted. Let's go back in and do this. Let us go right with our base color. I need to change brushes. This is not a good brush. Here we go. Here's what I'm looking for. And I'm going to pick up some of my zinc onto here, some of my interior green. And if I wanted to, because of the way I set my parts up, I could actually come over here and see a contrast. That's pretty good. And again, I will dry brush this out. And that's all this is, folks. If you notice, all I'm doing is I'm repeating techniques, repeating techniques, repeating techniques. This is not hard to do. And you can see that pattern of that noise reducing sheeting they put up in the aircraft. You can see that really start to pop right out of there. And like I say, this doesn't have to be super neat, because again, once you put this interior together, this is pretty much gone. I'll go over to the other piece. Like I said, I want to get real aggressive today and accomplish a lot of painting. That's a little too dark. There we go. Now we're going right onto a flat piece with no detail at all, which I think this separates the bulkhead. This is the separating bulkhead between the pilot section and that other section. Here's a good example. This is kind of coming out messy here. We can take this and soften this up a bit, but there's really no need on this piece. Okay, we'll let that dry, and then obviously we'll go into the floorboard and we'll do the exact same thing. So let me take this, get this, because I want to install some pieces later on. So let's get this. I'm going to take a little break so you don't have to endure me doing this entire interior. And I'll be back, and then we'll start doing some real aggressive painting in about 2 seconds. All right, folks, now you can see that we've taken the little break, and I am back in instantly a magic 1 second. But what I did is I took and I went in, and let's hold this up so we can see the contrast between what I did and the floor. And if you look at my dry brush palette, you can actually see exactly where I went. Went off the interior green, added some of that medium green, did a little darkening, added a little of the zinc yellow, did a little lightening, and then I added all 3 colors together and did a little mix and match. And this is what we ended up with for the floor. So that is your dry brushing on that. Now, stay right on this palette here, Dave, and I'll bring up the other piece. And then I went in and I also did all the stuff that we painted in the other show, and I highlighted all of that stuff as well. And again, if you look at my palette, my dry brush palette, and you look at the pieces, you can get a really good idea of exactly how I went about accomplishing this. Now, this is something when you're at home, just mess around with this. And like I say, you could do it on the interior of a piece that's not going to show. And that's where you experiment. That's where you take chances. That's where you learn. You don't want to be out on this new $80 kit trying techniques. You don't want to do that. If it doesn't work, you're $80 into this thing and you're going, ooh, it looks like crap, you know. So don't experiment there. Experiment in other things. If you have extra parts left over, experiment on those other parts. Let's go in, and because like I say, I'm going to jump all over the place here because I want to get a lot of stuff done. Let's jump all over the place. I need a little silver out, and I'm going to do the wheel hub of this wheel and the inside of the engine nacelles. So let me get that, and let me get that prepared. All right, folks, now we've shifted gears a little bit and we're back to our tires. So once again, I'm going to take my brush, show you the brush I'm going to use. I'll put this right up against my shirt here so Dave can get in and get a good tight shot on that brush head. Now let me go into this brush head a little bit for you. You can see there's a lot of volume here coming down to a very fine tip. Well, that's real good because this part of the brush here will hold a lot of paint going down to my fine tip, which will allow me to go in and paint this wheel hub. So let's do that next. Let's keep on going. Now, because I need to see this precisely, I'm going to put on my jeweler's glasses here. I've already got my paint out. I've already stirred my paint, put it out onto a palette, and I'm going to go over here and start to paint this wheel. And we need to do this, Dave. Now, actually, when you wear one of these visors, and I don't know if I can paint this so people can see me do this, but when you wear one of these visors, you need to get fairly close to your work. Now you can see I've stuck a toothpick through the center of the wheel. And this allows me to turn my piece as I paint. I don't have to be super neat in this, but I like to be because I'm with a metallic color. And sometimes metallic colors, when they get touched by another color, they like to regenerate themselves very, very aggressively. So I don't want to do that. Now you notice I did the outside of the rim first. Now I will go in and color the hub. And I actually folks, I should almost change paintbrushes. I got to get into each individual little spoke area here. And I should have probably actually changed paintbrushes. Giving myself a little bit broader head here instead of that fine, fine, fine tip. But again, maybe we won't paint this entire thing here on the camera, because it is a time consuming. Although, you know what? This is not a bad thing to watch, because it will give you a sense of, like I said, I want to be real complete in these videos, and I want you to see the entire process done.
And tip it toward me a little bit.
Yep.
That's very good.
Okay. Now, I have more or less completed the interior of that wheel, and let me hold it up so you can see it. I'll get it right up here. I'll bring up my completed one. And obviously we need to go onto the back sides and finish the back sides. But right now, let me show you where I'm going to go on this one right here that is done and dry, the one we did before. Okay? What we're going to do with this is very simple. Take this, put this onto a painting platform like this. I've got some tape out already. And I've got some black out here. Take my thinner, because I'm with my enamels. I'm with my enamel paints. So I'm going to take my thinner, grab a little thinner, and go onto the top of this black and see what I can do with this black here. And it is definitely working for me. Is that in the way?
Nope. Not now.
Not now, it is. And you can see I'm getting a really dark color going here. You notice I did not clean my brush. I kept the silver on my brush and went into some old black paint I had in my palette, and I'm trying to regenerate that. I'll bring it over so I can cut it for the thin. And again, like I say, folks, I'm repeating processes, repeating. This is all you need to do. You need to master these two little things of washing, dry brushing, and then when we get really hot, and you've seen me do this with the oil filters where there's hardly any color, I'll get up into that and show you that as well. Yep, my tire's running away. Now we're going to come over. That's thin enough. We're going to come over to the tire over here, and we are going to drop this wash in. And watch this. It will immediately get better. And I got to kind of drop it down because it is a wash, folks. And again, maybe I can hold this up. You can see this. Got to get a little bit blacker in there. You don't want to touch this too much because what will happen is, because the enamel is a metallic, when you go onto it with your thinner, the thinner will absolutely regenerate the metallic even if it's been on there a couple of weeks. And you know it has been. My God, when was our last shoot, Dave? Like the middle of what? Middle of November? Middle of December?
Early November.
Early November, because we didn't do a show in December, did we? That's right, that's right. That's right. So here we go. There is the washed piece. And I got to get it flat pretty quick.
Okay, that's good.
Is that good? You got it? But you can see what that did. You could use straight black in this, but I don't like to do that. I like to add a little, I like to take the silver and bring it down a little bit. So we would do that. Let me push this around a little bit. That's better. And we will set this aside to dry. Now, because I have the silver out, I did some research. I went into my magazines and I did a little looking around and I said, whoa, what do they do? What else do they do here with aluminum paint? Well, I have noticed there's two different things that happen on these spooky gunships in the engine nacelles. They either do them with an interior anti-corrosion color or they just leave them be. You got to remember, these engines, these radials in these particular aircraft, radials like to spew oil. So, as a matter of fact, I knew a Skyraider driver one time, and I was talking to him, and I said, boy, you're dripping a lot of oil. He goes, if my aircraft isn't dripping oil, son, he goes, I don't want to fly it because there's no oil in it. So, certain aircraft do produce a lot of oil drips. Again, you know me, I like to keep my brain straight, so I cut everything down, get rid of things. I also want to talk about propellers a little bit today, so don't remind me to do that, Dave. I think I will keep these right in the tree. I just got this obsession about things sticking out. Don't know why. All right, I'm probably going to need a little thinner, a wider brush. We'll get the brush head that I'm using. Tell me when you got it, Dave. Got it? Okay, this is the brush head that we're going to be using. Now I'm going to take and go down into my silver. Here it needs a little regeneration. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of thinner. Go on to that spot. And then I'm just going inside my engine nacelles. And I don't know if I can do this on camera well, but that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to paint the insides of these nacelles. Sorry, gang, I got to see what I'm doing. So sometimes when I do that, it doesn't film so well. And we're just going to get up the interiors of these nacelles. Once you stuff these big engines in there, I don't even know if you're even going to see this or not. And sometimes under the photographic lights, folks, I have a tendency to lose things because I'm not as lit, as bright as I would be if I was under my high intensity lamp. But that's it. And I don't think you're going to be able to see this on camera at all because it's a big dark hole. But I've gotten the interiors of my nacelles in an aluminum. Yep. Okay. Now, what else have we got? What else have we got? We have got, I'm going to take again, let's hold this up so we can see where I'm going. I'll take a look at my instructions. There's all my interior for my cockpit. Flip it around, and I've got the top piece here. Okay, let's start doing some actual construction. I'm going to put this down Actually, that's not true. I'm not going to do any construction. What I'm going to do is, I've got a radio part here, number 69, and it tells me my radio compartment on number 69 is going to be 69, black. So we'll take this, put it on a pallet, put it on a painting platform, stick it down with some tape, grab my brush, go over to that black, and paint this. Very easy, very, very, very easy. Again, let's go into some more parts here. I look here, what do they call for? Black instruments with white dials. The black is out, we might as well use it. And I'm going to change brushes now. This is a good teaching thing. I was on there with my main part with this brush head. But I'm doing detail painting, so now I want to go in with my pointed brush so I can draw very, very straight lines. I could also, if I wanted to draw a straight line, I could also go into this with, watch me not be able to find one. Here we go. I could also go in with an angled brush. Now the angle here really helps you draw a straight line. You can see it. I'll do it like on my finger here. You can see the advantage of this in drawing a straight line. That really makes a lot of sense. Also, I have the ability to flip it around and use just the pointed tip, and so you can see how I could do some very, very straight lining that way as well. But if I needed volume and draw the line a long ways, this would be a great brush to do this with. But we're not going to use this right now. I'm going to go into my pointed and, again, pick up some of this black and go in. I don't know if I can do this here or not. I'll try it. A lot of things here I have to look at to paint. Let's see if we can get me doing the edge here between the radio piece and the actual bulkhead. A lot of it has to do with the consistency of your paint as well. Notice, I take my hand, I plant my hand flat down. I'm not up in the air trying to draw a straight line. I get down on a surface. That way I can control my brush better. And I go in and I draw the line down. Get a little bit thicker paint. You notice I drew that edge with fairly thin. So I almost like a thick wash drew that line. That's a good way to put that. It was almost like a thick wash. That gives me a very, very straight line. Now I go in my thicker and I blacken that up. Do the same on the top here. I don't know if, are you getting this, Dave? Are you? Having problems here, Dave. Got problems. Too big. This is where I say cutting things down is to your advantage. Why did I cut that down? Because I can't get my hand flat to paint this piece. And also, I want you to see it. There we go. Then I come out. I don't paint from the outside in. I paint from my straight line out. Also notice I was pulling towards me. Now I'm going to be pulling away from me because I'm on the opposite side of the piece. That's good. Get another one. And you know the sad part of this is, students, is once this is painted and assembled, this is gone. This is gone. If I wasn't building this for the show, I wouldn't even install these pieces. I would keep these pieces as spare parts. And I would use them later on in something that requires a tremendous amount of detail. And there we have that. There's your 2 boxes painted. What else do we have? We have another radio over here that could be painted. Put this aside, let this dry. This one here I'm just going to take right out. Well, basically because it's falling apart. And again, go in. I'm going to use my same black. I'm just regenerating old paint here, gang. I'm not putting out more paint. I'm just regenerating the old stuff. I got to get rid of this. And let's get this right by its little lonesome. So I don't have this big thing hanging around. And again, let's go in and do the same thing. Draw our line. Well, that one's recessed. Draw our line. And draw our line. Come out. Very easy. Go to the opposite side, do the same exact thing. Can you see it, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not now.
Not now?
Okay, that's better.
Better?
A little better. Okay, that's good right there.
Right there? Okay. What are you in extreme close-up, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
Are you? Okay. Because I'm having trouble seeing it. Also, there's little shelves that these radios fit into. So try not to get your black onto the little shelves. And you can do that by keeping your mixture of your paint a little bit thinner so you can manipulate it. And onto the top. Like I said, I don't know why I'm being so careful about this. This stuff is destined for the... Where did it go? Okay, going on to the tops. Again, right down that edge. Nice straight line. Then fill it in. See, I'm filling in off the volume of the barrel of the brush. Notice I do my... Let's do this slow, Dave. We'll do this nice and slow this time. I go in with the tip of my brush. Get the extreme close-up, Dave?
You're getting it.
Okay. Go in with the tip of my brush, draw my line. Use the barrel of the brush to apply the paint. See how deeper I am into the brush? And I notice that's got a that has got a green line there, which I don't like. But what I'm going to do right now is just cover this up with a little bit of black, and then I can highlight that later on. And again onto that radio face. Put this aside to dry. Oh, here's a piece. Oh, this is good for John. This is good for John. John, and your question. Here, John, I've gotten just a regular interior green based piece. I have not enhanced this whatsoever. Now, I'm going to do it with black to really emphasize this technique of using an enamel on top of an enamel. The biggest thing, students, listen, the biggest thing is when you're using an enamel, you've based your piece in the enamel. When you go on top of it with another solvent-based paint and another enamel paint, thinned out with your thinner, you have a tendency to, if you do too many brush strokes on this, it will regenerate your base and you will burn through to your gray plastic. You do not want to do this. So how do you avoid doing this? Here's what we're going to do. I'll come down so I'm fairly flat. That lies good and flat. I thin my paint with the thinner. And notice how I do this, because I do not want to regenerate my base color. So again, I will go on this, and just like we did with the oil paints, notice there's no stroking. Touch, touch, touch. And I've got some black instruments in here. So I go to my palette, I thicken my black up, I go into this hole. I don't know if you can see me painting the hole here.
You tip it a little more forward if you can. All right, that's good.
That good? Ooh, that's a funny angle.
Yeah, it looks good though.
Eehee, that's a funny angle. If I was, if I got to do that. I'm sorry, I got to do this. You got to see the, I can't see it. This is how I would actually paint this. On camera, obviously, I'm tipping it towards you, but this is how I would actually paint this. I would lay it flat down, because I can't see it. Go in and touch that. Go in and touch that. And fill in my faces. And then we bring it up so you can see the completed piece. But that's another way to do this. And you notice I didn't use any oil paints. I'm doing the exact same thing with enamels that I did with my oil paints. This is not hard. It's not hard. You just got to think about how it's being applied, you know. Okay, let's get that down. Let that dry. We are really cranking along here. Here's a chair. You're not going to see much of this chair. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull out the old Cruddo palette here that I just put in the trash. Pick up a little green. Oh, made a mess. And bam, the chair. This is the radio operator's chair. I find it very hard to believe that a radio operator sits in a chair you can roll around inside an aircraft. I got real suspicions on that. I cannot see why that chair is not bolted to the floor and that radio operator sits in a chair that he can strap himself into and take a hard ride if they're going on a hard ride, you know. Okay, let's do a little enhancement on this. I cut this off. And just like we did the seat, we are going to do the same thing here. I got to open up my thinner because, believe it or not, we've taken a little break. Open up my thinner, regenerate a color. What do I got here? I like this. And we're going to do this. Oh my goodness, I keep getting my hands all junked up. One thing you want to do is keep checking your hands. If your hands get messy, make sure you keep them clean. And onto the little bench. What's the bench do? Just says stool. Okay. Again, I can't see them having a free-floating stool in an aircraft. I don't see that happening. Now, you notice also, there's all kinds of plastic around this, which, you know, in my world doesn't work. So again, also I'm cutting off another number tab, which avoids confusion in the future as to what part number this is. I don't know why I don't like excess plastic, but I just don't like excess plastic. Put that down. Same thing with the chair. Look at all the extra plastic I have around that chair. There's no need for that. Hold that so that doesn't go flinging into space. Now here's a good example, folks, of why I talk about cutting pieces off and putting them onto a platform to paint. And I'm going to show you this, Dave. We're going to get an extreme close-up on this. I'll put this right up next to my shirt and I'm going to point to it. Because I have painted this piece on the sprue or the tree, when I cut it off, I got this little nubby point right there. And you tell me when you got that. You got that little nubby point?
I got that.
Now, if I come up this way, I don't know if you're going to get this sticking up, Dave, but we got an awful good camera, folks.
Looks good.
See the bump?
Mm-hmm.
That's bad. If this was an exterior piece, this is bad. Because now to clean this up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife or a file. I'm going to cut this clean. And now again, look what I've done to my part. I've taken off paint. See that? I've got the same thing on the top of here. I have this little nub. Again, I clean that up. And again, I've got that little holiday where I cleaned it up. Why do this? You know what I should do is, in reality, most people would take this and do this. Clean it up like that. I'm not going to. I'm going to paint the whole side. And I'm going to do the same with this top. I'm going to paint the entire top. But why do this when it would be much more to my advantage to have taken this piece, put it on a painting platform. Look at, I'm holding a brush in my teeth. Don't do this. Put it on a painting platform and made my life much easier without having to touch things up. When you get into, what's the word I'm looking for? When you get into a, how can I say this not be insulting? When you get into a better quality style of building, you want to avoid these little things, these amateur little things, that's so conceited, that railroad guys do. No, I shouldn't do that. That
Always default to the railroad guys.
It's the railroad
That's how it works.
Railroad guys, it's you. You want to avoid these things because they're amateurish. This is not the way a well-seasoned model builder builds. They build so they don't have to take care of these little mistakes and these little mishaps of. Now, I'm okay. Let's get a good example. That was a piece that might be important if it was an exterior piece. Where it's an internal piece, it doesn't make any difference. But now, let's compare the two pieces together. This is not bad to paint on the sprue for the fact of, I'll put this down, stay in this piece here, Dave. I have got an attachment point down here that will fit into a recess. Stay right in the piece, Dave, don't move. That will fit into a recess in my floorboards, i.e. hole. Boom, boom, tab, hole. Okay? So painting this piece on the sprue is not bad, but when you've got these pieces that are going to be exposed and shown, why are you going to go in and touch them up? Don't do that. Don't do that, okay? Again, I have no wash in this, so therefore I'm going to do this simple. Now you notice I'm all over the boards here today, gang. I'm not staying with one particular technique. I'm going down onto an old palette, regenerating, and again, like I said, I'm just repeating technique after technique after technique after technique. I'll come on top of this just so I can get some shadow and drop this in. Now we just painted these radios and drop that in around there. Very, very simple, very easy. Again, set that down to dry. Here's another one that I didn't do, although I didn't paint the fire extinguisher. Before you drop in any shadowing, get your complete painting done, let's take care of the fire extinguisher. Okay, let's take care of the fire extinguisher. We'll do it in 2 seconds. All right, folks, I didn't have you go have to pound railroad spikes into your head while I stirred my paint and stuff. So what I did is I got out a little bit of red, and I'm going to do the fire extinguisher, and I'll do this at an angle, the best angle I can for you. Let me get this out of the way so I don't stick my hand in it. Get out a little bit of this red. Again, I take my piece and I plant my piece firmly on a solid surface. I do the same thing with my hand. I go onto a solid surface with that pointed brush. And I go in and very carefully cut in the fire extinguisher. Now you do not want to do your wash for your darkening until everything's done, because you want to throw a shadow around this piece here. I need to see this better, Dave. Where does that go? Dave, I got to turn on a light. I cannot see this to save my butt. Oh, okay, I got it. I've got it. Okay, I'm going to have to do it this way for you, gang. Again, planted firm, planted, hand planted firm, piece planted firm. And draw that line. Now, I also noticed we got a little silver charging handle here. So all I've done is gone and cleaned my brush. Touch, touch. Go over, pick a little bit of silver up. And go in and just hit this charging handle. And I have to lay this flat to do this, gang, so sorry you can't see me do this. And there's that little top. And you know what? I'm going to add, just for detail, it looks like it's in some sort of a holder here. So I'm just going to highlight that holder a little bit. And just change that color just a tad. And then show you the completed piece. So, that's about it. I'm getting the wrap it up, Bill. I'm getting the wrap it up signal. I notice I got a little holiday up here, Dave. So I'm just going to take care of this just quick before we say adios to our viewers and our students. So, gang, once again, I, your host and instructor, BillGrigg, and my faithful clam-bake cameraman, Dave, we will say adios. Come back, join us once again right here on Simple Groundwork and Diorama Techniques with me, your host, BillGrigg, and your instructor, and Clam-Bake Dave. We'll see you again. We'll continue on this C47. Take care and keep on modeling.